Hey you guys, this is OffTopicGames. Here with another deck profile for you guys. This one is on the newly supported Dragonic Overlord deck. Recently it got the inclusion of the Legend deck, which I believe really helped this deck and made it push itself into the higher tier boundaries. Unfortunately, after playing with this deck, I still don't believe it's tier 1. It's very unfortunate. I believe it's around tier 2-ish to maybe 1.5, kind of pushing it, but I don't think that the Legend deck was good enough to support it and push it to higher lengths. However, it did support it to make the deck very strong and a pretty solid competitor among different decks. So for our starter, we run Lizard Hero Undo. We run it because it's a foil and it looks pretty nice, but what it does, it's GB1. Counterblast 1, put it to the soul, and search your deck for a card with Overlord in its name, and then shuffle your deck. So put it to your hand, shuffle your deck. So you search for Overlord, which is really good because it helps you. So you have either a grade 3 to use for Stride in general. Maybe you can use it for Persona Blast for Dragonic Overlord the Cross and the End. You can use it for Pitch Target for Dragonic Overlord the Legend. Or you can use it to discard for Dragonic Overlord the Ace's cost to restand. So overall, this card is pretty helpful for us. It's pretty versatile and it goes to soul, so it's pretty important because you kind of need a certain amount of soul with this deck if you use Burnout multiple times. So that's our starter. For our triggers, mine is kind of weird. At this moment, I kind of like it, but we're running 9 crits. Optimally they'd be Flame Dragon crits, but I want to be cool and run foils. So currently I'm running 4 of the Legend deck, 4 each of the Legend deck ones, the 4 Gokus, and then whatever this is, and then I guess one of the Blade Master, put into the soul, get plus 5k, even though we don't run Blade Master. So yeah, 9 crits, and then therefore we run 3 draws. 3 draws with the Gatling Claw is pretty important. This is the only card in the deck that's not foil, unfortunately. The reason why we run 9 crit and 3 draws is because this format so far is pretty fast, and with the inclusion of more draws, you want to assume that with draws you make it so that you push your game further in and then you get more advantage as time goes on. But I don't believe that the draws will help you per se because the game doesn't last very long in entirety. And the crits will push you ahead in advantage and threaten your opponent in terms of pressure. With this deck, because of the Legend deck, the rear guards have higher power, so with more pressure in crits you can push out your opponent to win the game. Unfortunately, I do really love draws, but I don't think Kagero can afford it at this point. However, I believe you still can get away with 7-5 and stuff, but generally crits are really strong, and in this format, crits help a lot for your slower matches like Angel Feather or Chaos Breaker, as long as you don't lose your advantage that you gain with other cards. So, lastly, sorry for our triggers, we run 4 heals. This one, I personally don't like the art. It's okay, I mean, I prefer the original Genjos, but these ones are nice because they're foil. So again, preferably all the triggers should be Flame Dragon because you don't for sure whiff with Dragonic Overlord the Legend. But I don't really care at the moment because I probably wouldn't. I'd rather miss than search out a trigger, I guess. Until G format comes out, then maybe you can switch it. I don't know, we'll see. Not G format, like G Guardians and stuff. Anyways, for our grade 3s, we run 4 Dragonic Overlord the Cross. They're all SPs. Just kind of showing it out there. It's a pretty good card. What it does is it legions with Dragonic Overlord the End. 22k Legion. When you Legion, you choose one of the cards on your Vanguard circle and add a copy of it from your deck to your hand. And then when there's another auto scale, is when this unit's attack did not hit, you can Personal Blast himself, and then kill 2 cards for Counterblast 1. So what's important is this does not have to work in Legion for the second skill. So let's say they guard your attack even though you're not in Legion, you can still use a skill if you have it, and are able to pay cost. Next we run 4 Dragonic Overlord at the end. I really like this card. Personally, I feel like it's needed at 4, and it's also 4 SPs, so why not run it? But what it does is, it's Counter Blast 2, when it hits you Persona Blast it, and then you restand it. So it's really good when you're in Legion, if it works. And yeah, that's basically all there is. There's other effects, but you don't really care about them because it's not relevant. Why do we run 4? Because we want to live off the dream and restand with the cross 3 times. It's also just good because even if you ride it, it's not completely terrible, even though it's pretty bad. But if you ride it like turn 3, you can kind of pressure your opponent into either guarding it or no guarding it. And overall, I just really like it. It's SP, it's player preference, I guess. If you want to run less, that's fine. Personally, I run 4 though. And then lastly, we run 1 Dragonic Overlord the Legend. What it does is, it's once per turn, Counter Blast 1, GB2, when you can ditch a grade 3 card with Flame Dragon, and then it gets Drive Check +1, Grade +1, and 15k power. And then when you attack your opponent's rearguard once per turn, you discard 3 cards and restand it. The second effect is Counter Blast 1, Soul Blast 1. When this card is placed on the Vanguard circle, you search top 5 for a Flame Dragon. So for the top skill, it's pretty good. Personally, I actually don't like this card because at most, generally the times when you can use it, there are so many other options that you go into that's a lot better. But you kind of have to run this card because I feel like it fulfills the purpose of the Great, where if you're behind, you can stabilize, and then if you're above in card advantage and you don't want to like push with Dragonic Overlord the Ace, you can use this specific card as a way to like turtle your advantage into more than you had before. So it's like a snowball effect. You have advantage and then you snowball the advantage with Dragonic Overlord the Legend. So that's why he's here. The bottom effect is actually really strong because you can search for perfect guards, you can search for Stride Fodders, grade 3s, you can search for Berserk Lord, etc, etc. You can search for triggers if you run it. I don't, so I can't. But overall, this card is pretty nice. Actually, ironically, I want to use this as first ride. Even though I only run 1 of it, it may not make sense. But you can search for it if you want, and it's not necessarily needed. But it's not as good of a card to run as more than 1, in my opinion. So that's why I run 1 of it. Next, for grade 2s, we run probably one of the best grade 2s. There's 2 best grade 2s, but this one's really strong. If you see on the board, you should kill it if you're playing against Kagero. What it does is when your grade 4 attacks, it gets plus 5,000, which is really good. That's GB1. And then also, during your turn, if you have Vanguard with Overlord in its card name, it gets plus 2,000. So GB1, it's an 11k attacker, which is good because it doesn't have to be boosted. And then, to attack the Vanguard. And then, when your grade 4 attacks, it gains plus 5,000, which is crazy. Because it stacks with like Dragonic Overlord the Legend, Dragonic Overlord the Ace. What's a good thing to note, I don't think I mentioned it before, is it gets plus 2,000 if you have an Overlord Vanguard. So it's an 11k attacker when you have an Overlord Vanguard, which you should in this deck. But also, the plus 5,000 is not relevant to Dragonic Overlord names. So if you're running like Blade Master or something, you can kind of like tech this in, and whenever your Vanguard swings, it gets plus 5,000 anyways. So yeah. Regardless, I don't think you should do it, because I don't like Blade Master as a card, but that's up to you. Anyways, for our other grade 2s, it's the other broken grade 2. What it does is Dragonic Burnout. It's a Flame Dragon. It's good. You Soul Blast 1. When this unit is placed on the rear guard, you can choose an Overlord in its card name from your drop zone, put it to the bottom of your deck. If you do, you Soul Blast 1, and you choose a card in your opponent's rearguard and retire it. It's really good. It's a really solid card, and you do not need to fulfill the entire effect. You can just pay cost for no reason, which is somewhat important. What I mean by this is, you can put an Overlord to the bottom, not Soul Blast, and not retire if you need to. So if you don't have Soul, you can just put an Overlord to the bottom for no reason, like if you're going to Legion. So it's not terrible, it's pretty good in terms of like that specific way to use it. But overall, it's just a really solid card. You can use this on turn 2 and set up with Conroe, which I will get into later. As for our other last grade 2s, we run 3 Berserk Lord Dragon. It's a GB2 effect. What it does is, when your grade 4 Vanguard or greater Vanguard attacks, you may pay the cost, counterblast 1. You choose up to one of your opponent's grade 2 or less rearguards and retire it. So this card can retire grade 3s, not very unfortunate. It's a good card because whenever your grade 4 attacks, you counterblast 1, retire a card. It's really good. Again, it stacks with Dragonic Overlord the Ace and Legend, so it can kill 2 things by itself for counterblast 2, which is really good because you can choose which card to retire. As for other choices for our grade 2s, we could run Dragonic Neoflame. I really don't like that card as a card because I don't think it's kind of subpar for me, and I just think Berserk's a lot nicer to have. Like Dragonic Neoflame, it's an on-play effect first of all, which I personally don't enjoy because you're either forced to play it or forced not to play it depending on the situation, because you want to use the most value off of it. And then your opponent also needs to have a back row and a front row rear guard, like an entire column, which normally doesn't happen early game. I don't know why you'd normally have it early game unless you're playing against Sword Me. But anyways, Neoflame as a card isn't the best card, I don't believe. A lot of people do like it and I totally understand it, but I personally as a player don't enjoy it as a card. I don't think it's very good. So that's why I'm not running it. And yeah. For our grade 1s, we run 4 Conroe. Conroe's super strong, it's really good. I personally believe it's probably the best grade 1 in the deck. I don't think many people would argue with me here. What it does is on play you can reveal a grade 3 from your hand and then search for an Overlord grade 3, add it to your hand, and then discard a card. So you can use this to filter through your deck, set up for burnout. You can use it to search for the grade 3 that you want, and then you can add more grade 3s to your hand if you need it, etc, etc. But not only that, it has a second effect. It's an axe skill. Retire this unit on the rearguard circle, and you choose up to one of your Vanguards with Overlord in its card name. And until the end of the turn, it gets, when this unit attacks, soul unflip 2 damage. That's crazy, guys. It's pretty good because you don't run out of counterblast. You don't, as long as you have this card basically, which the Overlord deck can tend to do. So with Dragonic Overlord the Ace, you can unflip 4. With Dragonic Overlord the Legend, you can unflip 4. With the Cross, you can unflip as many times as 2 to as many times as you can stand, which is crazy. With this card, the potential is pretty vast. It means that you can Overlord, use Dragonic Overlord at the end as many times as you can hit, basically, and pay cost. Because you can counterblast 2, and then, or you can unflip 2, and then when it hits, you counterblast 2, and then you attack again, and then unflips 2, and it just goes off and off. So it's a good card. It's really good. Next we run for the Unflipper Perfect Guard. Even though Conroe's a thing, I still think unflipping is necessary in the deck. So we run Protect Orb. It's also Flame Dragon, which is really strong. You can search it with Dragonic Overlord the Legend. I personally don't have a problem too much with like mirror matches or D-Police, so that's why I run into this, use this specific Perfect Guard. It doesn't really matter too much in my opinion. Although sometimes it's kind of nice if you have like the other ones, but overall the utility of this card is much better than a regular Perfect Guard. Like if you're against a matchup where the Unflipper Perfect Guard does the exact same thing as the regular Perfect Guard, so in other words the opponent doesn't attack the rear guard, then based on that, this specific Perfect Guard is just in its own entirety better than the other one. And it's a Flame Dragon, so that's nice too. I also don't have the Perdition ones or the other one that's Flame Dragon because I just didn't need it at the time, and it's fine. This one's just better in my opinion. Next we run 3 Tars. It's really good. I personally think it's a pretty versatile card. A lot of people may not like it. I totally understand it. What it does is, it's once per turn, it's an axe skill. GB1, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1. You choose up to one of your units, and it gets plus 5,000 until 4,000 until the end of the turn. And whenever it attacks the Vanguard, you look at the top 5 and search for a grade 3, I believe. Yes, grade 3 or greater Flame Dragon specifically from your deck, and add it to your hand and then shuffle it. So this card is pretty versatile because if you have like an awkward 13k lane or something, you can activate this skill on the rearguard, make it hit for good numbers, and you still get the top 5 effect. So in other words, you can choose any of your units, right? So it also helps because if you're on the ace, you can use it on the ace and make it attack and then top 5 to at least shuffle or search for a grade 3 if you don't have it. It actually saved me a couple times because I didn't have Dragonic Overlord in my hand, but I still went to ace because I was hoping, because I think that was just the best option at the time. So I used Tar and I hit a grade 3, so I was able to restand, which is really strong. And it also filters your deck for through grade 3s, so you have more chances to hit triggers. Also, what's good to note is, if you use this effect on like a Nahalem, for example, that makes it hit numbers if the booster is a 7k, because 7 plus 11 is 18, plus the 4 bonus from this effect is 22, which is very good because it hits numbers. So if you're Nahalem, if you're on the ace and you used it on Nahalem, you can make it a like 32 base without triggers. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about this card. If you use 2 on one specific unit, you do its effect like twice, so you top 5 and top 5 again rather than using top 10. And then lastly, for grade 1s, we run 2 Stride Fodders. It's a Flame Dragon, it's nice, it's signed, it's a foil, it's a good card. Lastly, for our strides, we run 1 Vortex Desire. I recently heard that people don't like this card. I actually really do, because it's on hit and you killed 2 to 3 guys. So it's really nice. People don't let it hit. That's fine because they lose guard and you can push your advantage more with the legend. So regardless, they'll minus in some type of way. It also makes your GB2s proc instantly just with this card. So I personally like it. It's a one-of. Next we run an SP, specifically Mustafa, which I just got like on Saturday. The SP version at least. What it does is you Counterblast 1, choose a face down G unit and then unflip it. You choose a card and you kill it, and then if for as many Mustafas face up in your G zone, you choose that many amount of units, and on hit they unflip. That unflip part doesn't matter because we only run 1, but the reason why we run 1 of each is because we can choose which one we want. We can either have pressure and hit more, retire more units, or we can guarantee to retire. Next, we run 4 Dragonic Overlord, the Aces. Ace is a really strong card. I believe people underestimate this card. Like, people run 4 Novels, which I don't agree with. But I guess it's because I run Berserk and they don't. But this card is just super strong because you swing twice to the Vanguard for 26 and 31. You can unflip 4 damages with Conroe. You have a 21 Nahalem by itself if you use this card. And it can push for game very solidly. What's good to note about this card is you can use it as first stride if you want. You have to Counterblast 4 and flip it twice to activate the skill. So what you do is use this as first stride, Counterblast 2, flip 1, then Counterblast 2 again and flip another one. The reason behind this is because it says, if you can see, there's like red text and there's black text, right? The black text is the cost. Right here it says flip up Counterblast 2, choose a face down card named Supreme, blah blah, the ace from your G zone, turn it face up. If the number of face up cards in your G zone is 2 or more, Until the end of the turn, this card gets drive check 1 and then rest of the text in red. Once per turn, you do this. So because you don't have, if you first flip this card, you do not have 2 face up, you do not get the rest of this red text. So, and then because it doesn't say once per turn in the black text, it means that you can activate it again to proc this skill. If you want to know more about it, you can always just comment and leave a question. Or like ask Bushiroad, I guess. I believe they can give the right answer, I hope. I heard it depends on which Bushiroad you ask. Anyways, in terms of last strides, we run Novell. It's a GB2 effect, once per turn, Counterblast 1, flip face up of him. Your opponent can only guard with grade 1s. Cannot guard with grade 1, sorry, that's important. And then when they hit 6 damage, they can't heal, basically. Or when they're at 5 damage, their 6th trigger effect is nullified. So it's a good card because it can cheese them. They can't guard with certain amount of a specific card, so no perfect guards, no grade 1s in general, and then they can't 6 damage heal. So you use this when the opponent's probably dead or you just need to use this. So that's the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, please leave one in the comment box down below. If you have any specific questions you can ask us, you can email us at OffTopicGamesYT@gmail.com. And if you liked and enjoyed our video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.